My mother taught us that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, that you're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk. People think of bringing in somebody to help them with communication is bringing in a megaphone or bringing in an amplifier. You're going to get the message out, but you're going to get it out louder. It's really a better metaphor to think about a professional communicator as a hearing aid. That part of what we're trying to do is help you understand things from a different perspective. And one of the things that I learned from that that's been helpful throughout my career is how to ask questions to draw people out so that you get a better understanding of where they are, and then you have a better context in which to talk about what you're there to talk with them about. Being quiet makes it a lot easier in a meeting. It also has, I see in my old age, the benefit of people paying attention when you do talk if you've been quiet for most of the meeting. Well, I'm a native Oregonian. When I was growing up in Portland, I grew up most of my life, I've lived in Portland. My interest, probably due in large part to being an Irish Catholic and going to a high school at the time that John Kennedy was running for president. I graduated in 1960 when he was elected. There was a call in his language for young people about service and the importance of service, and I was inspired to do that. I had not been in the Capitol before, so the legislature and the legislative process all seemed pretty amazing to me when I was first working in the building. And I was kind of awestruck being in that office. And I was also initially awestruck by being around all these elected officials. And it was a few months into the session, I remember walking into the little restroom there and the mirror there, looking in the mirror and thinking, you know, I could do what these guys are doing. This isn't rocket science to be in the legislative process. And as I thought about it, I also realized I had the luxury as a staff person of being able to focus my work on what I was most interested in doing and where I thought I could be most helpful. And legislators, for the most part, are pulled into the issues of the day that are demanding their attention. They don't necessarily get to put all of their focus on the things about which they care most. I have a good opportunity to be effective in making their job easier. I just really wanted to see if I could get a chance to work with Hardy because I respected him a lot. I had an appreciation for one of the great skills that I think Hardy brought to the role. In addition to being self-effacing and not into being in that role because he was aspiring to be something else, he really loved the legislative process and he understood how it worked. And he had the intelligence, the understanding of the process to be able to see it in sort of three-dimensional chess, what decisions you have to make here in order to get us so we have a chance to make this decision over here in order to get to here. And his mind worked that way. I was focused less on the legislation than on the relationships on the floor, maintaining the balance that we had, because with the Hornets, who were the conservative Democratic group that kept us from being able to get a full majority within our own caucus, we needed to cement relationships with the moderate Republican members of the House, many of whom were from Washington County, but not all of them. And part of what I was doing was using the resources we have in the Speaker's office to be of assistance to them, to facilitate when they did need an extra typewriter or another table in their office, getting all those things taken care of, spending time maybe sitting on the floor with members and chatting with them during a session just to keep an understanding of what was going on with them. And it was beneficial for the speaker that we had that kind of ongoing connection that he couldn't personally maintain because there were too many of those things to be able to do. So that was a lot of my time in that session, was on the relationships that were being built. Well, I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to move into a lobbying role on behalf of the electronics industry at a time when that industry was becoming so much more important to the state's economic future. It was a great time to be connected with that industry, an opportunity for me as a lobbyist to be part of helping that momentum grow and helping introduce to legislators the value of the industry's contribution to the state. And policymakers were smart enough to understand that with the challenges the spotted owl was creating for the timber industry and the reductions in federal forest harvests, Oregon's industrial base was changing, and that was creating a new dynamic. The income from these high-earning high-tech workers helped the state's revenues substantially by orders of magnitude and created employment opportunities that have continued to either grow or stabilize and been an important component of Oregon's manufacturing base. I have great confidence and optimism about Gen Z, and watching my grandchildren's generation take a connection to activism that we've seen in some of the demonstrations that happened with Black Lives Matter. We've seen in some of the activities around politics and the activism in this last election cycle, the success of what Stacey Abrams is doing in Georgia and getting more people connected to the public policy process. I wished we had the capability to provide really good civics education again. I'm grateful for what we had, and a lot of my generation was involved in the anti-Vietnam War movement or civil rights movement and so forth. But that work isn't done. And this generation seems to have a taste for it, and I hope we can nurture that